Hey, deserving listeners, 90 Day Fiancé. Let's watch.
Yo quiero dile goodbye en la casa.
No, no quiero que vengas.
So she doesn't want him coming to the house to say goodbye to the family. I think she's letting him say goodbye over the phone, which is completely reasonable given the way he behaved the night before.
Chao, voy a dormir otra vez.
Okay. This is a big loss for me because I've grown attached to Harold and Juan, and I deserve better than just saying goodbye over the phone.
Well, I don't know if it's a matter of deserve, but I understand that he would want to say goodbye to the kids, for sure. I mean, I think he absolutely bonded with those kids as a stepfather, and to just have that completely cut off, for him, that's, it's a huge loss. I don't know if it's a matter of deserve. It's reasonable that Ximena would be anxious about having him come over. I don't know. It's hard to know what the best situation would be for the kids. I mean, of course, the best situation is they would have had any knowledge of the relationship between Ximena and Mike and didn't know about the ramp up, didn't know about the breakup. They just knew, well, mommy hangs out with some friends sometimes. But, but given the fact that they were absolutely bonding with Mike, what's the best? It's hard to know. I mean, I think we use this as a jumping off point. If I were there as a therapist with the family, I would throw out the idea that the kids, if they wanted to, could have contact with Mike for a period of time to kind of have a tapering off so that they're able to, but I don't know. I mean, it's hard. It's like, would that be good for Mike? Would that be good for the kids? How would Ximena feel about that? I don't know. It's just a rough situation because the kids, in all likelihood, at least to some extent, bonded with Mike. And now, presumably, they're never going to see him or talk to him ever again. And that's an attachment disruption for kids. Now, were they that attached to Mike in terms of a caregiver? Probably not, given the limited amount of time Mike spent with him. And I think the vibe that the kids had with Mike was like, well, mommy's mommy. And, Mike's, he's nice and he's there. So I don't think the kids are going to feel, untethered when Mike goes home. But I don't know. It's just, I tend to, when I'm in situations like this as a clinician, offer up the chance for people to have ongoing relationships that they want. The kids, if the kids at Christmas time want to send a card to Mike, they should feel that that's okay. Sometimes kids don't know how to ask for that though. So do you ask that? And that's where therapy can come in. As a therapist, I have a lot of time and space and know-how talking to a kid in session about what they want, what they feel comfortable with. Do they feel pressured? Because if the mom asks, the kids could detect that the mom doesn't want the kids to have contact with him, and so they would tell the mom, "No, mommy, I don't want to send Mike a card at Christmas." So, therapists can help with that, or other people might be able to help with that. But I don't know. It's not like that's going to mitigate all the damage that's been done.
No, espera. ¿Qué pasó? May está enviando mensajes. Dice May, quiero ayudar con el alquiler porque quiero que te sientas seguro.
Interesting. What does that mean? Does that mean it's just a friendly gesture? Is it that he feels bad for how things went down? Is he trying to get back with her? Does he feel bad for the kids and the family and he just wants to help as a friend? I don't know, maybe we'll find out.
Le digo, ¿por qué quieres ayudarme si no somos nada, solo somos amigos? Él me dice, por favor, déjame ayudarte. Quiero arreglar las cosas y estar en Colombia el 1 de septiembre y casarme.
All right, well, there we have our answer. He is trying to get back with her, which is fine. It's normal. Wouldn't be advised, but it's normal when you get broken up with that you will try things to get back. Hopefully you do ethical things, not unethical things. It's telling that his first text to her is, please let me help you, let me give you money. And she's like, well, why? And he's like, well, I want to work on things. It's telling, because if he just started with this last text, I want to work on things and get married. I mean, the married part's like, huh? I want to work on things. Can we please work it out? Is there a chance of us getting back together? Okay. But you put it in context of, let me give you money, let me give you money. And so is it that he wants to have power and dominance? Is it that he feels his only worth is if someone needs him for money? Is it that he's, in a fantasy that things are not what they are, which is clearly that it's over and she doesn't want to be with him? Has she given some sort of indication that this is warranted off camera? I doubt it.
Estoy confundida con todo lo que me dices.
Sí. Yo quiero tu seguro.
No voy a aceptar tu ayuda. No quiero tu dinero.
Yeah, good for her. It would be ill-advised. I didn't suspect that she would. But one, it would be perhaps her exploiting him at that point if she didn't intend on working on things. If she were straight up and said, I'm never getting back together with you. If you want to give me money, I'm not going to say no to that. But, I think she doesn't want to be tied to him. I don't think she wants to come across like she is just wanting him for his money. So she's saying no, and good.
Seremos amigos si tú quieres.
Amigos para una mala discusión.
Again, normal from the outside. That's not how I would characterize it. The way that I would characterize it is the way I said in a previous hypothesizing, yammering, that essentially she had a temporary, somewhat of an attraction to him that dissipated really quite quickly and wasn't into him at all. But for him, it's because of one argument. And you might look at this and say, like, Mike, are you delusional? But this is what people do. When it's almost universal that when someone gets broken up with, their brain goes into this weird place where in their heart, they're like, but this is real. I'm in love and I felt love and that was real, right? And yet they're breaking up with me. There must be something wrong here. And I want something to be wrong here that I can fix. And I want to believe that they love me and they must love me, right? There's just so many self-convincing aspects to coping with being broken up with. And so I'm guessing that he convinced himself that it was much of a lesser issue, that they just had one little fight and she broke up, and if he could only talk to her, then she would be convinced. If they could get back to where they were, where he's giving her money and he's changing who he is, it's normal. And the key is that Mike can ask, and Ximena should say no to that. And this is one of the things about when you're breaking up with someone that you have to expect, that when you break, especially if you're engaged, when you break up with someone, you have to expect that there's going to be multiple conversations. You don't have to participate in those, particularly if you're being abused, but you should consider if you're not being abused, if you're not being made to feel unsafe, that it's reasonable to feel that it's your responsibility in Ximena's shoes to answer at least those questions. You might not want to have long conversations, but at the very least, Mike is like saying, hey, let's get back together, and hey, it's just one argument. And you have to kind of accept that that's going to happen. And you should say, I think out of fairness, human to human, to say, okay, I'll entertain those questions, but I'm going to repeat myself until it sinks in, because I want them to understand what the situation is and not hold out for some fantasy.
Tu vida antes de mí, muy duro. No más. Nuestro futuro, una casa en Colombia para vacaciones.
Ick. So, I mean, yeah, and that, of course, is how their relationship began, according to everyone. The mom indicated that as well. So Mike's not lying as he's saying this, but so we'd have to know what's going on for Mike. Is he just like, well, we know that he's desperate and lonely and low self-esteem, so I'm sure that's playing a role. But is this also some kind of power play? Some kind of desire to be dominant, desire for a woman to be dependent on him so that he can have his way? I mean, it has, there's a whiff of that.
Veo que tú quieres como comprar mi amor. Y dijiste que yo te quería a ti por dinero.
Es muy molestando, upset.
Yeah, so it's odd, this conversation, in how he seems, well, I mean, if you're desperate and you're like, okay, here's my chance. I'm going to come across as nice again. I'll try to get her back. It's normal. And of course, he's not immoral or weird for wanting that and trying. But it's particular how he leads with the money, how it just keeps going down. My strongest hypothesis is that he literally believes that his only chance of having any kind of attachment or companionship is if he's paying for it, because he, I'm guessing, believes that no one will love him for who he really is. And interestingly, his low self-esteem and his assumption that people won't love him for who he is actually is creating a situation where it's pushing people away, and thus he's not getting his needs met. I don't think Ximena would have ever come around with him, but I hope that for Mike, he can get the therapy and healing that he deserves, so that he can feel that he doesn't need to buy someone, that he is lovable, that he is likable, that there is a lid for every pot, that someone is out there who wants to be. Maybe he's already found that person. Sometimes I wonder about that, like, because being on the show, so many people are there. There's got to be someone watching this show who's single, who Mike would like, who is like, maybe I should DM him. Because it's one thing to be on Tinder, it's another thing to be on national TV. So I don't know, maybe he's already met someone.
Things to one another out of anger, but I really truly love her. I love her kids. Our first trip, we got engaged, and everyone was happy. Ximena was happy, the kids were happy, and she's worth it to fight for.
Yeah, if I were his therapist or friend, I'd say, given what we're seeing here, I don't think there's any indication that it's worth torturing yourself and her by trying to, and the kids potentially, by going down that road. So I think it's time to accept the reality. If she wants to be with you, she knows how to contact you. You could even say that. In fact, sometimes that's a good thing to do, is when you're in Mike's position, it's just like, okay, I'm going to write a thing, I'll text it to him, or even I'll say it on the phone, just be like, hey, just know I do want to try to work things out with you, but I don't want to bother you. So if you ever feel like you want to work on things, just know the door is open. Maybe even a year or two from now, I beg you to let me know and give me another chance. But I'm going to stop contacting you. I'm going to stop even thinking it'll happen. But if it ever occurs to you and you ever want to do that, please, please, please reach out to me. The ball is in your court. And then you walk away. And if they never contact you, you have your answer. Now, there's a downfall to that, of course, because you're essentially just waiting by the phone all the time. But if you have to do what Mike is doing, that's one option, instead of pestering someone and having a fantasy that somehow there's an avenue towards getting back together with her. He seems, but it is normal because he's in love and desperate, and
Te quiero.
Chao.
Good on the editors of the show. I mean, it's just a perfect ending, because I think the tell-all is soon to this season. Te quiero, bye, from them, and then this face. I hope the best for the two of them. I hope that they both have some work to do. She has some work to do regarding the kinds of people she's attracted to. He has some work to do regarding, I think, his self-esteem. So hopefully, and but being on the show, it's like that, it probably shreds your self-esteem even further. Ugh.
No sé qué hacer.
All right, well, that is it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself, because you deserve it. You really, really do.